Our first Hall of Fame inductee tonight is a decorated war hero who fought in all of the major World War II theaters. A man who was among the first company to return to New York Harbor and received a raucous hero's welcome. After witnessing all that death, he committed his remaining days to life, becoming a priest, and more specifically, committed those days to education. Impressed by the Basilian priests at Aquinas, Father Leo Hetzler said he felt drawn to the classroom, so that's where he went. First as a student, where he earned every degree known to man, then as a teacher and a professor for over 3 decades, and that's not all. He's chaired college academic departments, won fellowships, medals, and awards. He's a published writer, and he even has a building dedicated to him at St. John Fisher. And yet, Father Hetzler deems his service on the Aquinas Board of Trustees as his greatest honor. Tonight we recognize that meritorious service. Please welcome to the podium, class of 1943, Father Leo Hetzler.
At one time, I used to run upstairs. I am deeply grateful to be inducted into the Aquinas Institute Hall of Fame because I love this school so dearly. Here, our minds and hearts are prepared for the struggles ahead. Struggles that, for the class of 43, included World War II. But Aquinas told us what to seek. Teach me goodness, discipline, and knowledge. In regard to knowledge, a joy in knowledge. I remember the English classes of Father John Murphy, later the first president of St. John Fisher College. And tonight we have the honor of having the current president of Fisher, Jerry Rooney. Father John Murphy, he's remembered for his rapid-fire, witty quips, and also for his wise, quiet reflections on life. Then there was Father Charles Donovan, mixing fun with trigonometry. A piece of chalk in hand, he would say to us, "We're going to explore this morning what happens when you divide an angle in a right triangle." And then he would approach the blackboard and draw upon it a right triangle about the size of a postage stamp. And then he would come up with a 2-foot-long wooden compass, point at one end and chalk in the other, to draw the initial arc across one of the angles. Well, we laughed and we learned. Another trick of his, he would arrange for the classroom telephone to ring. It would always be the same wild character claiming that Father Donovan's lesson that day was all wrong. Now this would start a shouting match with the imaginary caller. Discipline. We all have benefited from the strong sense of discipline that our coaches instilled in us. We owe them a deep debt of gratitude. Of course, even in our studies, discipline was an element. I took only 2 years of French, but Father Paul Mellon stressed speaking as well as reading. His sense of discipline helped me fight my way through war-torn France, and later through university courses in French. Goodness. Life is made up of little things. In my freshman year, my homeroom was 119. Our homeroom moderator was a kindly, elderly nun, Sister Clotilde. 40 boys could wreak havoc on the neatness of any homeroom, and yet she never chided us or expressed annoyance of any kind. When we had a study period, it was her chance to go through the aisles, picking up scraps of paper scattered there. But by the third day, there were no scraps of paper to pick up. We responded to her act of kindness. God's plan was underway. Goodness creates goodness. Before I finish, I have a word for our present day students. By your gift of your time for your school, you athletes, actors, musicians, workers with the poor, I can't name you all. You are the living spirit of Aquinas. You all recall that photograph last November of the victorious Aquinas football team and its player, Jamar Hayes, comforting the defeated, tearful Hilton player, Bailey Pittman, with the words, "Keep up your head. You're a great player." Now that's Aquinas. Finally, I think of my own class of 43. How much did it love Aquinas? Beginning in 1948, my class has met every month for another year. That is, for the last 68 years. For the last 68 years, every month it has gathered happily for companionship and memories. I thank you.
Our next inductee tonight is, in my opinion, by far the coolest, but we'll get back to that in a second. Walter Heerman was always paying his own way. He delivered newspapers as a kid, gasoline years later, whatever it took. While attending medical school, he was granted a scholarship by the Navy, which took the financial burden off his parents. Heerman's military medical career spanned 3 decades. He served in Vietnam and the First Gulf War. Dr. Heerman left the Navy as Captain Heerman. As a pediatric orthopedist, Dr. Heerman did not simply save lives, he helped his patients put the life back into their lives, correcting deformities in children that otherwise may have left them bystanders or less. His innovation and influence can be detected in the multitude of places, whether 30 years as a professor at Nebraska, the papers published, or several national medical societies in which he has held office. Tonight, Dr. Heerman is being recognized as a distinguished alumni, and in my opinion, it doesn't get any more distinguished than Heerman's very legitimate claim as the original Maverick from Top Gun. You see, in 1966, Heerman was stationed at the infamous naval base in Miramar. Now, he didn't fly fighter jets, but he did meet and assumably woo his future wife, Lindsay, while at Top Gun. The analogy is made all the more perfect because Lindsay's maiden name was McGinnis, the same last name as the actress Kelly McGinnis, who played Tom Cruise's love interest in the movie. I may be the only one really impressed by that. Please welcome to the podium, class of 1954, Dr. Walter Heerman.
Thank you. I haven't drawn that association till this day. That's very good. My wife will like that. About 6 months ago, my wife Lindsay and I were grocery shopping at the base commissary at Eglin Air Force Base in Florida's Panhandle, when a call came from Christina Mancini on my cell phone. I had stopped into the Aquinas Development Office a couple of times over the past few years when I was in town and touched base with Christina and her staff. I can't say that I've been super active as an alum. I had pretty much written Rochester and Aquinas into my personal history book when I left college and began my careers. In these current days, however, the winter of our lives, we tend to wander back to revisit the past, and so be it with me. I've passed across several career steps over the years, beginning with a bunch of different tasks working for Lou Lange, Aquinas grad of 1946. During my grade school, high school, and college student years, you wouldn't believe the variety of jobs that Lou found for me to do under his tutelage. After school janitorial tasks at the office, washing those large oil tank trucks, selling annual residential fuel contracts, and ultimately driving tractor trailers, delivering fuel oil and gasoline to the Lange Oil customers. This all added much needed and appreciated resource to help cover the cost of educational expenses that I was picking up all during those years. It was during the high school years at Aquinas that, along with a number of other kids from St. John the Evangelist Parish, pitched our education and development stars to Aquinas' academic and extracurricular world. The combination of the Aquinas environment, the faculty guidance, and all augmented by the help of our mentors, resulted in the production of a number of successful, principled adults. As I stood in the commissary aisle with my phone stuck in my ear, Christina explained that she and Chris Grout were sitting in Mike Daly's office and had something to tell me. Mike took the phone and almost gave me a heart attack when he said that I had been nominated for and was selected to receive the Aquinas Alumnus of the Year Award for 2016. I was told that in addition to that honor, I was named to the Aquinas Hall of Fame. You can be fully assured that I didn't know what was happening, what was going on. Lindsay, by that time, was several commissary aisles ahead of me, and I knew I'd get chewed out if I didn't catch up with her with a half basket filled grocery cart. The folks in the president's office must have thought I had drifted into Michael Jackson's Never Never Land. I can only tell you that I'm extremely humbled by all of this and can only say how grateful I am for the honors that you bestowed upon me this weekend. To those of you who are Aquinas graduates, I can admit to you, and you will understand with empathy, the passing of 62 years has kind of dulled my memory of the class of 1954's graduation in particular. However, the class of 2016's graduation weekend will remain fully implanted in my brain for all the years that I have left. The opportunity to spend time reflecting on all that happened during all that happened during the 4 years beginning at the Annex on LaGrange Avenue in 1950 and ending when we walked down the aisle at the Masonic Temple on East Main Street makes me realize how fortunate we were to have lived those experiences. The Basilian Fathers, Mercy and St. Joseph nuns, lay teachers, coaches, advisors, mentors, they all wove the fabric that became our life stories. For sure, the road from 54 to 216 has not always been smooth. We've all tripped in Rochester-sized potholes along the way, but we marched on. I would like to say and thank Aquinas again for this honor. Thank you to Lindsay, Sean, and Ann, and the rest of my great family. I thank you for my close friends here today. You all played a role, a huge hand in making all of it possible. And remember, Aquinas evermore. Thank you.
Next up this evening is the family inductee, and almost every year my initial reaction is, how are they not in already? The Iacovangelo family is a classic American land of opportunity success story. Patriarchs Anthony and Elvira were raised in Italy. Elvira only attended school through the 3rd grade, Anthony not at all. They weren't going to let that be the fate for their children. 3 sons went to Aquinas and a daughter to Nazareth. And since 1980, at least one of Anthony and Elvira's grandchildren or great-grandchildren have been enrolled at Aquinas for 29 of 39 consecutive years. Very likely that will not be all. The names Gallo and Iacovangelo and Faber homes, which are well known in this community, are largely the result of the sacrifices that Anthony and Elvira made to get their children through Aquinas and Nazareth and fulfill their American dream. Now those children use their professions to protect 2 of the basic tenets of America: justice and opportunity. The education Aquinas provided has been paid back to Aquinas tenfold. The Iacovangelos have been builders, whether it's facilities, relationships, or the education of AQ's next generation. They check all the boxes. Please welcome to the podium the first Iacovangelo to graduate from Aquinas, class of 1958, Frank Iacovangelo.
Good evening, everyone. I'm the oldest of the Iacovangelo children, but I'd like my brother Bernie to stand up. I think you've all seen him before. I'd like my brother Tony to stand up and my sister Palma to stand up for a moment so you know who they are. And one of the things I'd like to tell you about Bernie, who's our youngest Iacovangelo, he looks quite a bit like my dad. And if you saw my sister Palma, she looks quite a bit like my mom. So in this room, I'm constantly reminded of my parents. Now, I just want you to know, and I don't want to repeat again what's already written in the book, is that this honor that comes to the Iacovangelo family is really only accepted by us. But it's really not our honor. The honor belongs to my mom and to my dad. And while I always gloss over the idea that my dad didn't attend school, I do remember many times in my very young years when my dad would pass a street sign or another sign, and he'd say to me, "Frank, you can read that sign, right?" "Yes, Dad." "Well," he says, "you keep doing that, keep studying, because I can't read that sign." My dad never went to school a day in his life, and there's probably nobody in this room who could stand in those shoes and know what it's like to be illiterate. I was 10 or 11 years old when I finally was able to teach my dad how to make his name. And that's as far as he got as far as formal education, but he was a very wise man. My mom went to 3rd grade, but I'll tell you, she was a very wise woman beyond the 3rd grade. They raised us with a kind, loving hand, but there were a few things that were absolutely critical. The first thing was they wanted to make sure that we got an education. You can imagine a man who can't read or write. If he has offspring, he wants them to be surely able to read and to write. Something so basic for us in this room that we can't conceive that a man doesn't have that ability. But Dad was really pressing us all the time to get an education. My mom was the same. But my mom was a little bit on the softer side. My dad was the disciplined side. When I began at Aquinas, or wanted to go to Aquinas, they were very pleased because, you know, they were very strong in their faith. They were very simple people, but they liked the idea that I would be getting an education with a Catholic background to it. So they were very pleased. And of course, once I told my mom and dad about the Brazilian motto of goodness, discipline, and knowledge, my father jumped all over the discipline part and says, "I'll handle that part." In any event, I don't want to bore you anymore with the idea of my parents and their wish for us to have an education. We did get to Aquinas, my brothers and I. My sister went to Nazareth Academy, and, you know, thank God, my children found Aquinas, and all 6 of them went. Bernie's children all went. The fact is, Aquinas has been a real tradition. My sister Palma's children all went, and she has 2 grandchildren who now are at Aquinas. Ma and Pa Iacovangelo's great-grandchildren are there. So it's quite a legacy that we have there. We want to thank very much anybody that's had anything to do with our receiving this award. There are legions of Aquinas alums and Aquinas families who have done so much for Aquinas and who have gone out into this world and done so much. And we're just average folk like our parents, but Aquinas was a part of our family. And so we continue to be involved and have been involved for many years. My brother Bernie continues to be involved with the construction and the facilities here at Aquinas. I would like to thank the committee again for inducting us or having us inducted into the Hall of Fame. And it's been an honor to be inducted with all the honorees, especially with my professor, Father Hetzler from St. John Fisher College. And of course, we have 2 inductees tonight who are marvelous examples of the Brazilian tradition. Thank you very much and good night.
You know, Frank, bored is not the word that comes to mind when you talk about listening to the stories of all your parents accomplished with an education I think most of us just take for granted. considering what your family has done, what their family has done since, the words awestruck, impressed, and respect come to mind, not bored. Our next inductee, if you Google his name, the first thing you'll find is the pseudonym used by a writer named Julian Barnes while penning crime novels in the 80s in England. The Dan Cavanaugh we induct tonight embraced many roles that left him almost as anonymous, but perhaps even more worthy of story. He was a well-known boxer, 4-time Mishabouts champion, and a successful fighter during his time in the National Guard. Cavanaugh has a powerful voice that he used to support others as a member of the Aquinas Liturgical Choir, Glee Club, and as a cheerleader. When a champion boxer says, "I have spirit, how about you?" you don't say no. Beginning in 1970 and for 38 years, Cavanaugh coached in the Henrietta Youth Football Program. It wasn't the glamorous football job, but RH Athletic Director Tom Stewart tells me that Cavanaugh almost certainly coached every single kid who played high school football at Rush Henrietta and most of the coaches. Remember, this is a football program that over the last decade has won 4 sectional titles and 1 state championship. Today, Cavanaugh is still the glue that holds his Aquinas classmates together. Please welcome to the podium, class of 1950, Dan Cavanaugh.
Thank you, Fred. Gotcha. People here tonight. I would like to take a moment to thank the Aquinas Hall of Fame Committee, President Daly, and the Board of Trustees for including me in tonight's ceremony. Little did I know, in the fall of 1946, in St. Mary Paul's home of 208A, the Annex, 70 years later, I would still be seeing people like Ron Timmons, Stan Kowalski, I don't see him tonight, Dick Clare, and monthly breakfast for the class of 1950. I would like to thank my classmates, too. Jerry Francati, he's missing. Jake Cull, Jack Murphy, Pete Clee, Don O'Neill, Ralph Palmer, Dick Phillips, Ron Timmons, and Mike Finnegan and Mike Mazel. Didn't know you were going to be on, did you? Aquinas has changed a lot since I was a freshman, but what hasn't changed are the friendships that are forged. The traditions that are carried on to the vital lessons of goodness, discipline, and knowledge being taught on Dewey Avenue. I'm a proud member of the largest class in Aquinas history. We began as over 500 at the Annex on the Grange Avenue. We're all eager to prove our worth, and we promoted to the main campus on Dewey Avenue. We ultimately graduated 402 members of the class of 1950. We still have about 165 left. And I hope heavy to be counted in that 165. I would like to thank my family here tonight, sharing in this special moment. I wouldn't be here without your love and support. Congratulations to my fellow inductees, and thank you once again for this very special honor.
Our next inductee, I met about 25 years ago when we were both umpires in the 40-1 baseball league. Umpiring was a tough job. We were teenagers umpiring games played by younger teenagers all by ourselves. Most coaches were good to you, but the ones that weren't, it was asking for a bad situation. Greg Pelletier and I were probably the best umps in the organization. We didn't talk a lot, but we shared stories about weird plays and angry coaches. We stuck together as umpires. We were 4 years apart at Aquinas, so I completely missed him at school, but our paths crossed again in 2000 when I came back to Rochester to work at Channel 8 and cover sports, and Greg began working up the ladder coaching at Brockport High. Every time I went to a Brockport game, we chat about sports, family, whatever. Nothing huge, but it was always all smiles, no matter what the score of the game was, no matter what his record was. And even as Greg fought and lived with the cancer that would claim his life in 2012. Mason, your dad was a good coach. He was a good example. He's a good dude. And I guarantee he didn't hear any of those things enough when he was alive. Tonight we add Greg Pelletier, class of 1990, to the Aquinas Hall of Fame, accepting the honor on his behalf. His son Mason, also an Aquinas student, class of 2020. Mason, please come up to the podium.
Hello everyone. My name is Mason Pelletier. I go to the Aquinas Institute of Rochester and I am in the class of 2020. I'm honored to accept this award for my dad, Greg Pelletier. I've grown up with an amazing family and great friends. They have taught me how to be kind to others, have great manners, and to always be there for someone in need. You always have to have a great attitude and stand up for yourself. It's always good to crack a joke once in a while, or every 5 minutes. These are some of the things that my dad, Greg Pelletier, did. For the people that he met, a good majority of them called him Coach. Right after college, he accepted a coaching job at Aquinas, his alma mater. He coached football and baseball there for 4 years and met some wonderful people. Some of my teachers and coaches either taught my dad or were coached by him. After his job at Aquinas, he accepted a teaching job and coaching job at Brockport High School. While he was there, he and his coaching staff helped turn around the team, and he had a great time teaching history. His students and players really looked up to him. My dad made a lot of friends when he went to school at Aquinas. He made some lifelong friends, and he had a good time there. I have gotten to know some of his friends through Aquinas, and of course through him. My dad has always been competitive, from playing football and other sports at Aquinas to playing softball with his friends. Just ask Mr. Page and Mr. Knapp over there about him in the outfield. He's also the best at making up nicknames for everyone. Some of his friends that I only know them by their nicknames and not even by their real names. Some of my friends and family today also are given nicknames. My cousin Livia over there was named the Libster. My friend Russ was named the RV Truck. My dad loved my family and friends. He was an awesome uncle, and he was an amazing father. When he coached for my friends and I, he didn't favor me in any way. He coached me like one of the players and kept the game fun and serious at the same time. When it came to family, he was always cracking jokes, always keeping the mood positive, and was always happy. I couldn't be prouder of him as one of his players, and of course as his son. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for giving my dad this honor. I'll be proud to see him up in the Aquinas Hall of Fame.
Our next inductee tonight is breathtakingly brilliant and successful. The biography you see in tonight's program is akin to printing just a couple of chapters of War and Peace. But Ted Mancini had to get his picture in there, so that's all we can fit. Some extra highlights. He has awards from the governments of Italy and Israel, 2 medals from Queen Elizabeth. He has doctorates from Gannon University and Niagara University, and has won 2 prestigious communications awards just over the last 12 months. For a few years now, Father Thomas Rosica has also served as the English-speaking spokesperson for the Pope. 400 million people in this world speak English, and Aquinas grad handles the Pope's communications to them. It is an honor tonight to hear him speak. Please welcome to the podium, class of 1977, Father Thomas Rosica.
There's a line in our alma mater which came to me yesterday as I was driving here from Toronto. In retrospection, we see thy intention. And since I was stuck on the bridge for an hour and a half yesterday, the bridge coming from Canada, I had that going through my mind and thinking about today. Actually, it's quite a providential day because I began early this morning with Dr. Rooney and his wife at the other pillar of my life, St. John Fisher College. I had the privilege of celebrating Mass there and recalling with the wonderful new president of the university and his wife the Fisher memories. And then this afternoon at St. Anne's home with my mother, recalling the Aquinas memories. Of course, as her memory fades, I said, Mom, I'm going to an Aquinas event tonight. And she said, make sure you say hello to Larry Ancini. All she remembers now is Larry Ancini, so Larry left a deep and lasting impression on her and on me, and this evening with you. What did Aquinas give me, and what does it give us? What does an authentic education consist of? I think there's 3 things: roots, wings, and dreaming. Roots because it anchors us in history. Wings because it sets us free and doesn't try to hold on to us. And the ability to dream, to think big. I had a very strange sensation last September where the memories of Aquinas came flooding into me in the strangest of places. I didn't expect it to happen. It was in the United States Congress, as I accompanied the Pope on that historic visit. Some of you, I'm sure, saw it. And as we stood there and watched Francis razzle-dazzle the American government, he's the only person that's ever held them together in a long time. And he started naming at the end of the talk the 4 heroes of American culture. And I don't know why, but the memories of Aquinas came flooding back to me as we saw the Argentine Jesuit Pope name the 4 people who have left a deep and lasting impression on our country: Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King, Dorothy Day, and Thomas Merton. And why did I think of Aquinas? Because I entered Aquinas in 1973. It was one of the bleakest moments of its history. The publicity posters about that, if you remember, was a black poster with the building lit up at night, and it says, God is not dead, nor is Aquinas. The future of it was very, very uncertain. 1973 to 1977 were the years I was there. So we entered under that, and of course in the middle of that we had the bicentenary of the United States. And so there was a huge emphasis on studying about Abraham Lincoln. And in 1976, the religion teachers took us to a downtown church, a service project, to meet Dorothy Day and Cesar Chavez. There was a huge rally. That was my introduction to social justice. And Thomas Merton, in grade 12, was the spirituality we read in a religion class about the 7-story mountain. I remember thinking, as I watched the Pope a few feet away, thinking, I know this story. I learned those things at Aquinas from the Basilian Fathers and some wonderful lay teachers that I had. And those memories came flooding back. Roots, wings, and the ability to dream. What I'm doing now, I never set out to do. I wanted to teach high school French and English. Father Soretto's reminded me up until the time of his death, remember where you came from. I said, who can dispute something with Father Soretto? I said, Michael, I've never forgotten it. And every time Michael would see me on television for something, he would write back to me and say, remember Dewey Avenue. And I would tell him, Michael, I remember Dewey Avenue. Because it was on Dewey Avenue and then later on East Avenue that I got the gift of roots, I got wings, and I had the ability to dream. And I think that's when a school is successful, and when schools and universities are successful, when they give us those gifts. I'm grateful to my two sisters, Carolyn and Maria, who are here tonight, to Mom at St. Anne's, who wants to get a full report on this tomorrow, and also to all of you. This is a great privilege to represent you, and I guarantee I've never, ever forgotten Aquinas. There's also a bridge that we should never forget, and it's the bridge that goes between Aquinas and St. John Fisher College. Though both places don't have the pleasure, the privilege of having many bazillions, or perhaps no bazillions at all, the spirit of those bazillions continues to hover mightily in those places. And I'm very confident, especially being on the board now of St. John Fisher College these past years, that it's in very, very good hands. And if anything, the bridge has been solidified now more than it's ever been before. And I'm grateful to Jerry and his wife for doing that. So thank you for the honor you've given me, and just remember, I don't forget you. And when you watch Pope Francis on TV, pray for him. The only regret I have for Pope Francis is he's not a bazillion. So McQuaid won with this one, but I am working for a Jesuit Pope. Thank you.
Our final inductee tonight is in a category that I'm happy to see is often included among Aquinas Hall of Fame classes. A lunch pail inductee, a backbone Hall of Famer. Men and women whose contributions often go unnoticed but are still well worthy of recognition. Life did not always go Jerry Cecina's way. His job was exported offshore twice. His life each time likely turned upside down, and still, he served Aquinas. Your hard drive go down, Jerry can fix it. Need someone to rebound 100 free throws? Jerry will be there. You want a hot dog? Jerry knows where the mustard is. For 50 years, through good times and some bad, Jerry remained not only a member of the Aquinas family, but a contributing one. Tonight, he proves again that if you want to be great, just make life for the person next to you a little bit better. Please welcome to the podium, class of 1969, Jerry Cecina.
My speech was really long, so I had to shorten it quite a bit. I'd like to thank the Aquinas Hall of Fame Committee. It's truly an honor to receive this recognition. I'm truly humbled by it. I'd like to thank my wife for her support and patience. I do spend much of my free time at Aquinas, almost all of it. I'd like to thank my family, friends who are here, all celebrating. My daughter Julie, my son John, both graduates of Aquinas. And my mom and dad, if they were alive, boy, they'd be sitting right here. They loved the school. Some of my classmates I have to talk about. Ed Navarro. Ed passed away in 2010. He came from Cuba, the country, not New York, when he was in the 5th grade, and we went to St. Michael's together, and we followed each other to Aquinas. I actually ended up working for him for 10 years. And that's when some of the jobs he was talking about were sent offshore. The business was great the first few years, and then it goes down fast. So have a backup plan. Whatever you want to be, that's fine, but have a backup plan. Ron Miner, the greatest cookie maker on Stafford Way. I'm a tester for all his cookies. He lives right next door to me, so I can't help but see him even if I'm not looking for him. So he's there. I'm a little worried. I saw George Barberi here tonight. He does our taxes. He doesn't live here. Do we owe money? What are you doing here? And Dr. Anthony Kohler-Tolo. I found out he bought a ticket and in my name. That was nice. And I saw him tonight. And notice I didn't thank him, wherever he is. I didn't thank you. I didn't send you a note. So I'm gonna do this instead. If your teeth are messed up, if they're all crooked, if they're maroon and you want them to be white, visit Cornerstone Dental. Skilled staff, cutting-edge technology, and a 1969 graduate. There's special pricing if you mention this Hall of Fame dinner and Father Hudson. Okay. A few Aquinas memories. Boy, do I remember typing class. Do you know typing was a New York State Regents exam when I was there? And Father Roy was the teacher. And those who went to Aquinas know those 7-foot poles with the hook on the end that open and close the windows at the school. We actually have 2 of them in the middle school. We have them, they're all of 7 feet. And Father Roy used the pole for 3 things: to open and close the windows, to kill bees. You ever try to kill a bee with a pole? It would be a viral video today, if you saw it. And the third thing, the most important, was the typing enhancer. If you didn't have both hands on the home row keys, till today, I swear I remember A, S, D, F, G, F, semi, L, K, J, H. That enhancer helped. My fondest memories are more recent, since I started working at Aquinas. I've been there for 10 years. I taught when it was a junior high. I teach in the middle school now. I teach 6th grade computer course. About 10 years ago, I was helping put the computers together. They came in parts, lots of them. And the computer room in 308, and Dennis Sadler, the principal at the time, wanted to talk to me. I'm like, what does he want? So he basically asked if I could teach a computer course, and thank you, Kodak, I could. I learned a lot at Kodak, and in 24 hours was my first class. So I did it, I loved it. I love going to school every day. It's very rewarding for me to teach a course and watch these young people create something from nothing. A few years back, I also had my first play part. I was in the movie Cinderella. First junior high play. Very few boys wanted to get in it, and I talked to Mike Grossadonia, the varsity basketball coach, and I said, let's do this. The boys will follow. They did, and it was really fun, and I really didn't know how much work went into a play, behind the scenes, the tech crew, the props, the costumes. And I was reminded, it's not practice, it's rehearsal. So I have to go to practice. No, it's rehearsal. I was the minister. Our picture, Mike and I's picture on my room in 308. My line was dearly beloved, and Cinderella was nothing without that line, let me tell you. A lot of the activities I'm involved in now, I volunteer for. I keep score for the boys' varsity basketball team, and I keep score, and I pitch at practice the girls' varsity softball team. And this year I only hit 2. That's not bad. That's almost a record. Scorekeepers are great because they have great seats for all events. First boys sectional title, Mike Dianetti. I'll never forget that, 2000. First girls softball sectional title, Coach Jeff Page, 2002. First girls softball state title. I don't know if you know Mike Grossadonia coached that. So that was the first girls softball title, 2008. Then the boys basketball state title this year. That was so special because he's talent-wise, there has been better teams, but I remember at the Times Union Arena in Albany, people behind me were asking, how's Aquinas got this far? Where's their big men? We're playing a team from New York City. And I just turned around and said, measure their hearts, not the size of the big men. And they cleaned them up from New York City. In closing, I'd like to thank the alums, the benefactors, and friends of Aquinas. We can all see the obvious in those pictures, they're still there. The Science Center, the Arts Center, the chapel, the computer rooms, the library, it's the old basketball court. The auditorium, field house, weight room, better than most college weight rooms. It's truly, I'll tell you, it's great to receive this honor, and I thank you all.
a special night for everyone. I believe you are the first witnesses ever to a sponsored Hall of Fame acceptance speech. Next year, Chris, if they want to have more, I think this is a great idea. I'll be very happy to handle marketing. I just want to cut. All right. First, a round of applause before we leave tonight to the staff here at the RIT and the Conference Center. Dinner was fantastic. It was fantastic. The bar is open for a little while longer, correct? Yes, off of the main dining area. And if anyone wants pictures, the plant area, the planting area, out those doors that way. Watch out for the live streaming camera though, because it's still going, and I'm assuming somebody's watching. So those doors to the side is where you want to go. But thank you again for attending this year. We look forward to seeing everyone back next year. And as everyone has said, Aquinas evermore.